Hello and welcome to the first ever NJ Devils podcast. I'm Charlie Weaver with Chris Dalton. So right now the NHL playoffs are still going on. There's 4 teams left. It's Washington. They have a 2-0 lead over Tampa. And Vegas and Winnipeg are tied up at 1. For the first time in 6 years, the Devils made the playoffs. They lost in the first round in 5 games to the Tampa Bay Lightning. We're going to talk about the Devils today. So let's start from right at the beginning of the season. They got off to the hottest start in franchise history at 9-2. From game 1 all the way to game 82, they were in a playoff spot. And all year long, the league was waiting for the Devils to fold. Travis Zajac said, all year long, the league was waiting for us to show our true colors. So he was obviously implying that no one but themselves gave them a chance at the start of the year. Chris, what do you think Zajac was saying by that? I kind of just talked about it, but expand more on that.
Well, obviously there's a lot of experts that go into detail about projections for the standings and stuff, but really it's all guesswork when it comes down to it. There's nothing that absolutely guarantees who's going to make it because it's hockey. You really never know what's going to happen. You can have the best players in the league on your team and things still fall through, but really no one really saw it coming. The Devils were the underdogs last year, and coming into this year, everyone thought it would be the same. They didn't think that one draft pick and a few changes to the lineup could change it, but the Devils proved them wrong.
Well, I don't think it's if anyone were to disagree with this, they're just crazy that the Devils did not have made the playoffs without Taylor Hall. Last season, his first season in New Jersey, he had 53 points, which for a regular player, that's fine, but it wasn't good enough for Taylor Hall. And this year he comes out with 93 points. He has 39 goals, 54 assists. He's a Hart Trophy candidate as well as a Ted Lindsay Award candidate. And obviously, I'm saying this biased, but I honestly think that he deserves to win both of those. The Devils were the 8th seed in the playoffs, and their defense struggled for most of the year, specifically goaltending. Corey Schneider got off to a hot start and then got injured. Kincaid took over. He did an okay job, and when Schneider came back, he was just god-awful, and then Kincaid took it from there, and really it was Keith Kincaid that, without him, I say without Taylor Hall, also without Keith Kincaid, the Devils would not have made the playoffs, and you can say that about so many guys, because when you look at it, the Devils finished the season with 97 points as the 8th seed, and the 9th seed, the Florida Panthers, had 96 points, and Florida had the tiebreaker over us, so if they had one more point, we wouldn't have been in the playoffs. There's so many guys you can look to. Guys like Blake Coleman and Brian Gibbons, for example, who really helped out the bottom 6 this year. And that was a big decision coming into training camp. Was it going to be Michael McLeod and John Quenneville, or was it going to be Blake Coleman and Brian Gibbons? And obviously it wasn't either those two or those two. It could have been Quenneville and Gibbons, or Coleman and McLeod, or anything. But a lot of fans, including myself, were a little bit upset by Coleman and Gibbons making the team over Quenneville and McLeod. Quenneville and McLeod are 2 guys that have ripped it up in juniors, done a really good job developing, and the Devils management seems to be really happy with how they've been progressing. So it was kind of a surprise to fans that they didn't make it, especially when Blake Coleman got a chance at the end of last season. I think he played about 5 to 10 games and didn't do too great. So it was a shock to a lot of people, but that really turned out well.
Well, obviously the management saw some progression, and although some of the fans, such as Charlie here, didn't really think that they could tear it up in the league, they definitely did. I don't know what
Coleman did.
Yeah, Coleman did in particular, and really, there's really no way to break it down. As I said earlier, it's all guesswork going into this season. You never know how much work they're putting in off the ice, and Coleman, he just really put in that grind, and it really paid off.
Talking about Coleman, I was thinking if there's any guy in the league that you'd want to put on the ice to preserve a 1-goal lead with a minute left in the goalie pulled, it's Blake Coleman. He's that heart and soul guy that's getting in front of blocked shots. He can even score big goals. But without Blake Coleman, the Devils would really be missing a piece. Obviously every team is looking to grab awesome, top 6 forwards and get a ton of goals, but you can't be a successful team without good character bottom 6 guys like Blake Coleman.
You as you're saying, Chuck, you really need those grinders to fill out the spots in your roster. Coleman's obviously not the best scorer on the team, but he knows how to get the puck to the net, and that really contributes to the Devils.
Okay, enough about Blake Coleman. So Miles Wood, who was in his second season as a Devil was much better this year. Last year, he was one of the fastest guys in the league. He obviously still is. He's in his early 20s. But he was as bad a puck handler as he was how fast he was. He just couldn't handle a puck. It seemed like he would run the goalie once every 3 games, which he still does. But at least this year, especially towards the end of the year, he could score a lot of big goals. He scored one of the biggest goals of the season, the goal that gave us the 2-1 lead against Toronto the night we clinched. But Miles Wood, he finished the season with 18 or 19 goals. I know he was just shy of 20. I don't have the stats in front of me, but it was 18 or 19 goals. And he was another bottom 6 guy that was huge for the Devils this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I keep on going back to this, but, like, it's really just guesswork, but really, like, you really just never know what's going to happen. Like, going into the season, you always have these projections, and you just got to hope that the management's making the right decisions, and it just paid off everywhere with the Devils this season. Like, the Devils, they have countless veterans, such as, like, John Moore, Taylor Hall. They're not exactly veterans, but they've been in the league a few years, so they know how things work, and I think that those guys on the roster are definitely speeding up the progression of these young talents.
Right, so not switching topics, but going more towards the end of the year. So the Devils had a big 6-game road trip out in the West Coast. And not only was it a 6-game road trip on the West Coast, it was against some of the best teams in the league, including in Nashville, in Vegas, in LA, in Pittsburgh. It was just absolutely loaded. They won their first 3 games in Nashville, in Vegas, and in LA. They dropped the next 2 to Anaheim and San Jose, and then they won in Pittsburgh and home the following night against Tampa. That was a huge stretch. So before that stretch, the Devils, a lot of people weren't really thinking that they could make it through the playoffs because they were just going to struggle mightily on this stretch. And they pulled through. They went 4-2, 5-2 if you include the first home game. And they did a really good job on that trip.
Yeah, so going back to Zajak's quote, all year long the league was waiting for us to show our true colors. This hard schedule on the road trip, that really showed the league what they're capable of. It showed them that they're in the race too, which was sort of obvious, but people were really doubting them. But they showed that they can compete with the best teams in the league, and that really just gave them a huge confidence booster going into the playoff rush.
Chris, today we have special guest, Mr. Saturday Night himself, John Moore is with us. Thank you, John.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for the introduction, Mr. Saturday Night.
Yeah, so 6 OT goals with the Devils. Let's start there. So a lot of guys can get lucky with OT goals, maybe 2 or 3, but 6 is no luck. And I watch every single Devils game. I try to watch all 82. I realistically watch about 75 a year. But when I am watching overtime, the one thing I always notice is, and I'm not just saying this, I really do feel really good when you're on the ice. Because the one main thing I know is that you're always so obviously when it's 5-on-5, it's important to hold the blue line. But the one thing I know is that you're taking pucks out of the blue line, you're slowing things down, and it causes a lot of less odd man rushes against us and leads to opportunities for us. What's your tactic in OT? I mean, you've scored many goals, you're a huge part of the team. So what's your thought process before OT?
Before OT, it's I think. The origins of OT, 3-on-3 overtime, that is, was introduced to the league right when I came to the Devils 3 years ago. And it was such a foreign concept to everyone in the league that coaches couldn't really wrap their minds around it. And everything is so scripted in terms of how we want to play 5-on-5 and even power play, penalty kill. The coaches go through video with us ad nauseum on where we're supposed to be, where our sticks are supposed to be, what plays we're supposed to look for. And 3-on-3, you just throw that all right out the window. So it's really, you're just relying on your instincts, and there's tons of open ice. And so the thought process going into a 3-on-3 is really, it's almost like I'm playing pond hockey with my buddies. Like, you have so much room and so much ice that you can afford to get creative and try things, but there's also that fine line where you want to make sure that you're not pressing too hard. You look at a lot of the goals that are scored in the league 3-on-3, it's like nothing happens, and then all of a sudden it's back and forth. and someone misses the net, and then they come back the other way 2-on-1, they don't score, and then it's breakaway the other way. It's just the momentum swings are crazy, and as a fan of the game, when I'm watching overtime, it's a great product. But I guess to answer your question, my mindset going in is trying to use my feet, get in foot races with guys, because I know that's a strength of mine, and not many guys can keep up with me if it's a 100-foot foot race down the ice. And you really don't see those plays 5-on-5, and they're very unique to the 3-on-3 situation.
Right.
And, well, whatever you're doing is obviously working, because it's been working out great for you throughout your career, so.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, it's, I think you look at some of the goals I've scored, though, like Adam Henrique was on a breakaway and he did a drop pass.
Oh,
Like,
Montreal, that was sweet.
Yeah, you never see those. You never see that. So, again, I think I'm really the beneficiary of a lot of selfless plays by teammates. But also, when you're on 3-on-3, you're playing with some sick players like Taylor Hall, and the list goes on and on for us with the Devils, and especially this past year when we kind of had a lot of influx of young talent. It's a really fun position that I'm grateful that the coaching staff puts me in.
Right, the Montreal goal. My entire family went out to the movies that night. I was obviously pissed. I just wanted to watch the game. And it went to OT. We were in the car coming back home, and we had it on the radio. We just went nuts because we thought it's because Cangelosi just said Henrique on the breakaway, and then we hear more score, and we're going nuts.
Yeah.
And then
wait, so you watch 75 Devils games a year?
I'm a huge fan. I'm at boarding school, and it was sweet because when the schedule came out last year, I saw there was a long homestand right over Christmas break, and so my brothers and I went to we went to 5 games in a row, and it was the 5 games we won, so we were there when you nipped against Lundqvist. That was sweet.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
that one felt good.
Yeah.
That's impressive, though, 75, yeah. You're on the West Coast, like, staying up late. Those games start late on the East Coast.
Yeah, name any game, and Chuck's probably going to give you a good goal-by-goal recap of it.
Oh, nice. All right, let's try it. In Vegas. March.
I was at that game. I was there. I was on break. My dad and I went.
Yeah, believe it or
How
not,
cool
if you
is
look if you look at the replays for the NHL YouTube channel, he's actually in the pre-game show where they're showing all the players entering the building. He's in a number 9 Hall jersey going up the stairs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I keep saying to everyone that's like such a cool atmosphere, that Vegas. I think it's awesome, too, that the NHL was the first to that party in terms of being the pro sports team that kind of broke the barrier there.
Yeah.
And they've had a lot to cheer about this year, but that was a great game for us.
Yeah, that was sweet. Quick start, 3. It was up. We were up 4-0, then they came back, and then in the third we got on them again, 8-3.
Yeah, it was. That was a good one.
Yeah,
that was a great road trip too.
That was oh my god, that road trip was huge. I mean, we went. So it was. We were 5-2, 4-2 on the road trip, and then back home Saturday night against Tampa. Chris and I were actually at that game together. But so I'm only interviewing a Devils player once. So I mean, you can find out a lot of stuff from the media, but there's only a few things we can find out from you. Like, what are some funny stories from a road trip with the team?
Oh man, I mean, I think I got to keep it PG here, but I'm sure you guys. A lot of people ask, what it's like being in the NHL, and I think of guys like, you. I'm not too long ago, I was, in high school watching every NHL game, just like you guys. Playing tons of video games, and then all of a sudden, like
we were playing shell right before this.
Oh yeah, you 3 random teams, and then you roll the dice with the 3. You pick a team and you go, and then it's right. Hockey all day, every day, and you get drafted, and you never really lose that. Like, we all love the game, and we all love, we're all pretty much just kids that get paid to do something we love and have a lot of fun with it.
Right.
And we always joke that we're professional time killers because we, especially on the road, like you play at night, but then you have the rest of the day to kind of prepare and get your body ready. So there's a lot of good laughs in terms of, going out to dinner with the guys and being on the plane with the guys and being on the bus with guys. And, guys chirp each other. They let each other know. There's always running jokes throughout the team.
Absolutely.
And, we're all pretty competitive, too. So you throw in, you're playing cards or something or video games. You get under guys' skin. You chirp them, even in practice. And it's just fun. It's fun to be around. But, off the top of my head, one of the funnier stories off the ice, I got to think, got to keep it PG here. I don't want to incriminate anyone either. There's always good pranks going on. That's one thing. Let me think.
If you can't think of one, that's fine.
Is pranking the rookies one of the? Is pranking the rookies
I
a big thing?
have a good one for you guys. We were in San Jose, and at the end of that long road trip we were just talking about, actually, we wrapped up in San Jose, and then we flew back to Pittsburgh. But we were in California. The guys were pumped. We all had shorts on. Well, we wake up in Northern California, and it's a little chilly.
Mm-hmm.
No one's prepared for that. So we had a day off, and where we stay there, it's kind of it's kind of like you're in a mall a little bit, but
Okay.
it's outdoors. So we were all freezing, and Brian Boyle went over to Lululemon and bought what he thought. He bought what he thought was this sweet jacket. Well, when you're at the Prudential Center or any major sports venue, the security guards, they have those yellow orange jackets,
Yeah.
security print. This thing was identical to that. It didn't have security on
That's
the
so
back.
funny. You guys were just ripping on him for it.
We ripped them, and just we're giving it to him. And he got really self-conscious, and then we come back off the road trip. We're at the rink for morning skate, and he's wearing it. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way this guy's wearing this thing again. And the guys are like, you won't go to the equipment staff and have security on the back of it. And I was like, oh, you guys want me to? And they're like, no, there's no way. You're too, you'll wimp out. No way. So, the guys challenged me. So, sure enough, I take his jacket, bring it to our equipment guys. Nathan Belvo is a great guy, assistant equipment manager. And, we have extra letters for the jerseys in case someone gets called up or someone's jersey ripped. So, he takes all the extra letters and writes security across the back.
That's so
we
funny.
stick it back in his chainsaw. Wait for after practice. He gets out of practice, puts it back on, and he knows right away it's me. So that's the other side of the prank. You try and be a little coy about it, where they can't tick, but he knew right away.
That's
So he took Ziplocs, and we were going to a road trip somewhere, and he Ziploc shut on those zip ties. Police will sometimes zip tie your hands. He took them to every zipper and closed them on my bag. So I go to get something out of my bag, it's all zip tied shut. I knew right away, oh, it's Boiler.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Wait, a little while back, you mentioned you were a big video game guy growing up. Are there Chell tournaments on the team or no? For a big road trip?
Sorry, what's that?
On road trips, do you guys have Chell tournaments or anything?
No, not so much NHL. Tons of Fortnite this year.
Oh boy.
That's
Yeah.
pretty big here too.
Yeah, Nico Hischer, just this guy plays Fortnite and plays in the NHL. I feel
No way.
Yeah, that's all he does. Jester Bratt. A lot of the young guys are, really into Fortnite. Now I'm married, I have a kid. It's really hard for me to, justify playing video games. So I'll watch if we're on the road or something at the odd time. I don't really play too much anymore, but I do play my brother in the summers in NHL quite a bit, just for bragging rights. Got to turn the game speed up. Got to turn, that's
No
that's
penalties,
just-
no offsides,
yeah, no
no
penalties.
icing.
You can't turn down a fight either. That's just basic understanding.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, and so about 2 hours ago, I was watching your beginnings, which is probably 5 years old now. And I called my two brothers. I'm the youngest of three. I called my two brothers immediately after because I saw the scene when you were playing ping pong and you guys were just giving it to each other, so competitive. I'm like, I called my brothers. I'm like, John Moore and his brothers are the same as us. They're just talking crap the whole time they're playing ping pong. It was hilarious.
Yeah, that was, Man, yeah, you're right. It was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's my brother's 5 years younger than me, and he's kind of too young to like get physical with him when we were younger, like fight him or anything. It was never really fair. So we'd make funny things like that, like play ping pong and allocate the chores like that. Like, oh, we got to do the dishes. All right, let's play ping pong. If you win, you're good, and if you lose, have fun with the dishes.
Mm-hmm. So, what are some of your favorite road arenas to play in, not including Chicago, because I'm sure that's at the top of the list?
Yeah, I think Montreal is a really cool spot. The fans are so passionate; they're really into it. I really like Toronto too, especially these last couple of years. Teams been really good up there. Our fans are awesome. Like, I don't think they get enough credit in terms of, like, that barn's rocking more times than not.
Mm-hmm.
And then, let me think, Nashville's pretty cool. Winnipeg's always loud. Vegas was bumping, though.
Yeah.
Like that,
We had a ton of fans there.
What's that?
The Devils fans, we had a ton of fans at the game. I remember
Yeah.
like Dad and I were walking in, we're like, oh my gosh, it feels like we're at the Rock.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you guys are a little young, but like in a couple of years when you start going to like nightclubs and stuff in your free time, that's what it felt like in there. And like I remember we got off the ice for warm-ups, and we were all just like looking at each other, and Taylor Hall was like, "Let's go!" Like,
Okay.
This place is bumping.
Okay, I don't mean to cut you off there. So I was high-fiving you guys before you went out in Vegas, and Hall was doing like the Happy Gilmore dance. He was going crazy. I'm like, what the hell is he doing? He was so pumped. So I noticed
he was,
that.
like really into the music there, and he was jacked up.
That's awesome.
Yeah, obviously it didn't happen in Vegas with all those fans there, but when you're at an away game such as Montreal where the fans are so passionate, what's it like when the whole community is pretty much against you there?
You don't really, like, it doesn't really register. It's almost like, it makes it more fun, like, that energy, I guess. Like, they're not cheering for you, but that energy is still there in the building, and it's a fun environment to be in. It's a lot better than, like, an empty building in the middle of a week. Like, those are tough games to kind of get up for and get your engine going. You really, you don't have that problem when the other rink's packed.
Right. John, we are taking a lot of your time. We just have a few more questions. One is, so in your 3 years in New Jersey, what are your top 3 favorite games? And you can totally be cockier if you want to say your goal in Montreal or your goal against Dallas or LA or anywhere. Just what are your top 3 favorite games? Playoffs included.
Favorite games, playoffs included. For sure, number one here was
Game 3, right?
Game 3, yeah, when we
sweet.
win. That's like awesome. Then we clinched at home against Toronto. Right? Hey, that's up there. Just because like that was such a step forward from the previous season being such a disappointment,
Yeah.
and to like put the flag in the ground, so to speak. Then it felt really good, especially for the guys that went through that the year before.
Right. That was so sick. I was almost in tears. I was going crazy against Toronto when we won.
Yeah, that was in the Rock was bumping.
Yeah,
too.
that was sweet.
And then my third one would be my first year here. We played the Rangers at MSG, beginning of the year. We had a tough start. I think we were like 0-2-1 going in, and we didn't touch the puck in the first period. And Palmieri fought, I think, Kevin Klein right in front of our bench, just like trying to get the guys going. And sure enough, like we responded, we won the game in overtime, and then we kind of took off from there.
Yeah, that was
a lot of
sweet.
people. So that'd probably be my top 3 right there.
Yeah, that was our first win of the year too.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Heinz's first win in regular, like in the NHL too. It was just a good win for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you said that Palmieri brought him in front of the bench and just got into a fight. So, like, before games, who's the one guy on the team that just gets everyone amped?
I think I am, to be honest with you. Like,
Yes.
I love chirping guys. I love like calling guys out. Patty Maroon was kind of the same way. We really, that energy was awesome. Me and Palmieri, we were really good close friends, but I love just, giving it to him. He's the
That's
same
sweet.
with me. We just go back and forth and try and fire each other up, and, especially in practice, I try and run him. He tries to run me. We, talk so much trash. It's,
That's sick.
yeah, it's good. And then, it carries over into warm-up. I always tell Kincaid, if he's not playing, I'm going to snipe every puck today. You're not going to make one save. And then, sure enough, if I score a couple of warm-ups, I'm chirping him. He gets off the ice, I chirp him a little more. And then, he gives it to me the other way, too, if he makes a big glove save and rubs it in my face.
Right. Just about that for a minute. So Chris and I both play hockey, and he's a goalie. I'm a forward. And what we do at the end of every single practice is we do a best of three of a shootout, and we're just giving it to each other the whole time. We kept track all season, and then that carries over to warm-ups. I'm just giving him so much crap. So it sounds like the same thing.
Hey,
That's
it goes
awesome.
both ways now.
Yeah, it's the same. If I could make one point, it's that. It's we're all, none of us really grew up. We're still same as you guys, just love the game and love being around our buddies and chirping and, giving guys crap.
Right. That's awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to turn the podcast off, but thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a
Oh,
big
no
help,
problem,
man. It was
guys.
nice having
And
you.
thank you. If you need anything else, don't hesitate at all, all right?